Taylor Swift is probably the main American star of recent years, with a very, very loyal audience. Swifties will do anything to get to Taylor's concert and hear and see everything live. But anti-hero always stands in the way of wildest dreams. In this case, it is the infamous American ticketing services, where you have to spend hours in online queues.
And I waited in line for like 6 hours.
This is such bullshit.
Every time I clicked on these dots, the seats would just disappear.
Ticketing groups have blossomed on Facebook. And if someone asked for an extra ticket, there were always a huge number of people willing to sell it. No waiting, guaranteed. Well, the seller inspired confidence. He has been on Facebook for a long time, many friends and posts. Spoiler, the accounts are, of course, hijacked.
He says the hacker changed the account's email.
They asked to transfer money to Zelle or Cash App to a third person. The seller explained that this was his business partner and the ticket was actually his. Swift fans are trusting people.
Be careful out there.
Then it's clear. The money has been sent, but there is no ticket. The Facebook person has disappeared. But the most interesting thing is that the owner of the account where the money was sent did not disappear. And he was very surprised and upset when questions and threats came in from Swift's army. As it turned out, sometime before this, Mr. X found a part-time job online. Supposedly manufacturers of body lotions could not do business in the USA, but they needed to get money. For a certain percentage of the amount, he was asked to accept transfers from American cards. And only after angry messages did Mr. X realize that they were not paying him for lotions. To his credit, the criminal unknowingly turned out to be a man of conscience. And having realized the truth, he began to return all new transfers from Swift fans back to them, and to reimburse those whose money he managed to transfer from his own pocket. By the way, invisible cosmetic sellers began to first offer him to increase his share, and then even threaten him. But Mr. X was adamant. He ended his career as a mule. This video was created by Sumsub, the verification platform. We make the digital world people-friendly, yet secure.
We define mules as people who registers in services. Usually it's financial services, but there can be many, many more services. And then they transfer their accounts to fraudsters for criminal activities. But basically we can say that it is a person that just transfers their account to another person. And then this account is used for fraudulent activity.
This is Pavel, head of artificial intelligence at Sumsub. He also develops software that monitors and verifies the purity of transactions. He will tell you how modern money mules work and how they are caught. But Pavel is an expert on modern solutions against money laundering. We'll return to it later. In the meantime,
Nunca he tenido vinculación con el narcotráfico.
Siempre he asegurado que mi dinero.
40 years ago, good old cash ran the show. It was transported in huge bags or boxes on planes and trucks. But the problem is that all those pounds of money were dirty, obtained from selling drugs, and millions of dollars needed to be laundered.
I spent 2 years undercover, laundering tens of millions of dollars for Pablo Escobar's cartel.
This man's name is Robert Mazur, and even now, decades after the completion of his mission, he gives interviews without a face. Drug cartels employ people with very long memories. And this undercover agent, who was known in Colombian Medellin as Robert Mazera, was able to get into confidence in the largest drug cartel
Don Pablo Escobar.
and uncover their complex money laundering system. The implementation operation took more than 2 years. And in the end, having gone through all the circles of mafia verification, Macera received his place in the long chain of cartel money laundering. This is what it looked like in a nutshell.
The money would first be put into a certificate of deposit in Luxembourg in the name of an offshore entity. That money was used by the bank as collateral for a loan in a different part of the world. So let's say the loan was in Paris. and that was to a Gibraltar corporation. And then that Gibraltar corporation would transfer the funds to Panama, and then from there to accounts controlled by the drug traffickers.
The apogee was the fall of 1988. The presidential elections were approaching in the United States, and the current administration really wanted to show voters how it was fighting drug trafficking. The cartel members were planning to meet at a big wedding. Following a tip-off from Robert, several dozen leaders were arrested at a bachelor party before the celebration. It was one of the largest operations that disrupted a multi-million-dollar money laundering network. The uncovered laundering system amazed everyone with its scale. So much so that the fight against money laundering for the United States became a top priority. In the end, in God we trust, and nothing is certain except death and taxes. But it's impossible to track all the laundering ones by introducing moles for 2 years at a time. Financial structures have developed comprehensive anti-fraud systems. Banks and government agencies themselves are fighting against money laundering, usually like this. The very first level, compliance. Often it's an automated process, but in complex cases, it may be considered manually. Here, transactions are checked for compliance with all AML requirements. Regulatory and supervisory authorities. For example, in the USA, this is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. International organizations. For example, FATF, which develops international standards in the field of combating money laundering. How does the system work? A new client, or someone with questions, is verified using identification, KYC, know your customer.
Probably we need to ask for more documents. We actually maybe to reject transfer or do not accept a new verification. If we're talking about mules, of course, it's like with the fraud. So for people, for fraudsters, it's always better to use mules from a set of countries where it's easier for them to actually create accounts. For instance, like accounts from the US, accounts from the EU is better for mules because you can actually open way more accounts with this sort of people data.
Further, transaction monitoring. Here, the main word is pattern. Even our spending has something like a pattern or gait. Consistently on a Monday, we take a taxi, like usual. On Friday, we have a bill at the bar. It's also normal for us. Or we can buy subscriptions to online services. But then suddenly, we buy 5 virtual gift cards online 5 times in a row. And then we redeem to our Google account. And then spend them on dubious purchases in real-time games. Or suddenly we receive several small but identical amounts from different users in Bangladesh. This may not be us anymore. Fraud detection systems. It is precisely these anomalies that are now increasingly being detected by solutions based on artificial intelligence and learning algorithms. Internal rules and procedures. Banks are developing their own instructions to fight money laundering. For example, somewhere you need software.
It is more or less common for us to onboard users remotely. It's very practical, it's very easy. Yet, for instance, in Germany, if you want to open an account somewhere, you actually have to call to a real person. It's called video identification. You have to talk to people, and then these operators make sure that you are a real person.
Well, briefly, signs by which we can say that illegal activities are being carried out through accounts. Red flags. Frequent large transfers. Remember the example about game store gift cards, or suddenly large purchases of cryptocurrencies? All this forces banks to send the client's account for review. Transaction structuring. Dividing large amounts into many small ones. You may have even encountered this when your card got blocked. For example, when you tried to withdraw small amounts of money from ATMs abroad several times. Sometimes their maximum withdrawal limits are ridiculous. Or again, you are credited with several dozen small and identical amounts. Using suspense accounts. For example, you're a German student in Sweden, and for some reason you send money through a Cairo bank account to your account in Germany. This immediately raises questions. Lack of information about the origin of funds. The client cannot explain where he got the money from. Refusal to provide information, or providing false information during the KYC procedure. All these measures, like different levels of water filters, was supposed to sift through financial flows and delay suspicious fraudulent activities. And for some time, it seemed that the armor defeated the projectile. Any large money laundering schemes were quickly discovered and blocked. But the era of personal banking apps has opened up new opportunities for scammers. Dispersion, lots of under-the-radar money mules.
But usually mule is a person that is being paid to be a mule. Yeah, you're not saying about you will be a mule, right? And your account will be used for my criminal operations. You can say like, I will pay you 10 euro and we will just submit a form. Sometimes these accounts just can be stolen. Or sometimes they are not stolen, but the real people, not fraudsters, they created them long ago. They completely forgot about them. And then their account are being used for mule operations.
These are the messages users received from, as it later turned out, hacked mailboxes of US college students. Recipients of the mailings were asked to fill out a voluminous form with a lot of personal data. And later they were sent tasks for which they were promised to pay. This is a classic example of a work-from-home scam. The main goal of the scammers was to gain access to as many white, undisclosed American bank accounts as possible. The main thing is that the mules, cashing checks, booking hotels on their credit cards, receiving payments on accounts like Zelle, did not understand for a long time that they were being used in illegal activities.
Can you do yourself and ourselves a favor? Quit this while you can?
There are many schemes: cashing fake checks when you are supposedly hired, pig butcher scam, romance scam. Every year something new is invented.
But the way this one works is fairly new, and in the short time that it's been around, it's been massively successful.
However, scammers often manage to find people who deliberately choose to work as mules.
And even though he kept it by his feet, the camera's got a perfect shot of his face here.
This video has received tens of millions of views. Its co-authors are the inventor of glitter bombs, Mark Rober, and the professional hacker and internet scam hunter known as Jim Browning. The latter managed to notify a potential victim of scammers at the moment when she was about to send a parcel by FedEx with $12,000. Instead of cash, they sent a glitter bomb that sprayed fragrant liquid and sparkles. But it was not the mule that was caught in the explosion. This man is actually the owner of an Airbnb. He rents out rooms on the second floor of his house. And the day before, a user with a newly created account booked accommodation for the day. In the end, the mule was found and exposed.
I don't even know which one is which anymore.
Then she got on the phone with her boss, James.
Yeah, no, I got one with me right now. I took the picture and sent it to you. I'm gonna bring it to you. That's what I'm saying. He said that I was done for the day. What I gotta be at tomorrow, you said that we was working out here in New Jersey. I don't know, wherever they give me an address, that they don't even have the B&B address in the London for tomorrow. This is the first time they split me and Crystal up like this in New Jersey.
But the schemes described above are usually used by scammers who need to receive victims' money from, for example, the United States, while being in India or Nigeria. But if you need to launder large sums without attracting attention, the modern market offers distributed outsourcing. People are the new oil. Now almost everyone has a smartphone, and nothing prevents everyone from installing a banking application or creating a crypto wallet. And who can blame the villagers in Bangladesh who suddenly began to use the American fast payment system without exception? Or students using one IP account at a Lithuanian university, when for some reason they opened 10 accounts in an Italian bank.
They use the same IP address, they use the same device. Maybe this is the only one mobile phone in their village. Maybe there is a possibility of that. Yet they all cluster it in a very, very nice, dense network of users.
The money eventually ends up in bank accounts, but in this case, anti-fraud systems become something of a digital courtroom. They are very suspicious signs. For example, suddenly, all the residents of a small Bangladeshi village registered their crypto wallets on one of the platforms in one day.
We call this a case of crypto enthusiasts. All of these users, also like a couple of dozens, they all come from a very small and very distant village in Asia. And all they, like one after another, they register it in a very specific crypto exchange. And they share lots of characteristics, like a device, for instance. So it was suspicious. right? Yet we can't say. So for instance, like if we share a device, it is a signal for us, yet you can't rule this as a genuine person. Like maybe just one device that they can use, right? So they can be real crypto enthusiasts. Yet they cluster it. Very nice.
The crypto era has opened up a huge field for fraudsters. Due to its nature, decentralization, blockchain helps to perfectly hide traces. The origin and movement of funds. Criminals have invented many mechanisms. For example, mixers. When dirty money transferred to cryptocurrency is mixed with legal funds, and after that, it is impossible to see their dark origin. Or the so-called smurfing, a gaming term, when a huge number of accounts are created. But mules are usually used for flat exchanges. That is, cashing out. There is a chance that crypto enthusiasts from the Bangladeshi village were attracted to do just that. And now again there is a projectile in front, not armor. Regulators are trying to impose the same rules on the crypto market as in the old conventional banking system. Similar AML KYC systems are being introduced. First of all, exchanges and platforms oblige you to monitor new accounts and check. For example, request a selfie. But for this, criminals have deepfake technologies. We had a video about this on our channel. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet.
Yet people attempted to use some sort of these masks, right? So this is obviously me. Yet, for some not that sophisticated verifications, this mask used to be okay to bypass the security check. We're not talking only about the paper masks, obviously. There are, for instance, you can buy a rubber mask. Some people actually just print like other people faces and just put behind their cameras so that they probably expect the verification provider to accept their image.
The main value of the modern digital world is the personal data of users. Companies put up huge walls because it's impossible to be 100% fail-proof, relying on just one stage of defense. Companies look for fraud at every user step. And a person's task is to protect his or her personal data. Criminals still have loopholes. For example, profiles with unreliable protection continue to be hacked. It is the stolen profiles that enable criminals to use them blindly. But sometimes, in search of easy money, we voluntarily become participants in criminal chains. We believe that we're simply helping a small business producing body lotion, but under the guise of legit business, we're providing Taylor Swift with a ticket scam. But behind this guise of easy money, there could also be something much worse.